Hey everybody, welcome back to Jeg's Garage. Today we're going to do a pretty simple project that when I looked it up online, I found some information, but a couple of the videos seemed kind of odd. But not a lot of talking. What we're going to do is going to get into changing the upper ball joint on a 68 Mustang. I don't 100% know for sure, but it should be similar for like 64 to 69 or whatever year range it is. But if you have this style of setup, this is what you're going to do. Now, a couple of things to note. You can see that this ball joint has nuts and bolts on it. Pretty sure that means that it's been replaced in its lifetime. It's kind of odd because this car has really low miles and is a fairly original car. So my only thought is that at some point somebody did some suspension work. You can see the sway bar bushings are newer. So somebody, I think, did some general drivability upgrades to this, and the ball joints were probably one of them. So without spending too much time talking about it, let's get to work. Basic steps are going to be to remove the large castle nut that's under here. Not remove it, but basically loosen it till it's, you're only on there a couple turns. I'm going to disengage the spindle from the ball joint shaft. Once I knock that loose, I'm actually going to take the sway bar end link completely off. That'll give you enough flex in the lower control arm to kind of pull the spindle completely out. Once that's done, we're going to take these 4 nuts and bolts out. The ball joint will pull right out, and then we're basically going to reverse the procedure. One thing that I want to mention, a little bit of a trick here. So these ball joints there's an opening right here, and I believe originally a grease fitting stuck through there. Now this particular ball joint that's on here now, the other side, yep, it has a nipple on the underside here. The Moog joints that I'm using, which are let's see, K8036s, their grease fitting is in the side of the cap up here. So the grease fitting is going to want to come out straight out of that hole. The problem with that is it puts it right on top of this nut. So in order to use a grease gun on it, you'd have to take this nut out every time. I don't want to do that. So I happen to have a little box of assorted Zerk fittings, and a 45 seems to work perfect. It'll kind of stick out of there like that, and you can get a grease gun on it. I'll show it to you once it's together. You can find these at AutoZone or Advanced Auto or O'Reilly's, Napa, whatever. Just get a little assortment of them. They've come in handy over the years. So just a little tip, you don't have to use the grease fitting that comes with this. That goes for the ball joints, the tie rods, anything you buy like that. If the grease fitting is not in an optimal position, because don't forget, this probably went on, that type of ball joint may have went on different cars, so maybe on some cars it's fine. But anytime there's this grease fitting, if you're not happy with where it's coming out, change it. Put a different Zerk fitting in there. It's not a big deal. So I'm not going to show too much, because I'm trying to do something different with my videos where I only film when I'm either talking or want to show something specific versus letting it run for half an hour and then editing it all back. It's just a pain in the butt. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. This is no big deal. 9/16. Tools you'll need. 9/16, 15 millimeter, about the same. Half inch, 13 millimeter, something like that. These are usually about a half inch. This bolt's 9/16, and this big castle nut, I believe, is 7/8. So you'll need that. You'll need a hammer for whacking the spindle loose. You'll need a torque wrench. The castle nut gets torqued, and then you just keep tightening it until you can get a pin in there. Got a couple open ends for the Zerk fittings. So it's not a really tool-intensive project, but I'm going to get some of it apart and then cut you back on when it's time to see something. Okay, the sway bar is disconnected. The castle nut is loose. This shouldn't be on there very tight. I was able to just kind of get it with my ratchet, no problem. Now this part, there's different ways to do this, to separate this guy. Now, you can use a pickle fork, and you can come in from the side and hit it, especially because we're not reusing that joint or that boot. It doesn't really matter. But the tried and true way that I always get them is just hit them. If you hit, you'll notice your knuckle has flat spots at the top. If you hit with a hammer, I'm using a pretty dinky hammer, a bigger hammer would probably go quicker, but you want to hit flat right on that spot. And what you're going to do is just watch. On the Mustang, there's enough tension where it's not going to like pop down, but you'll want to like kind of put your hand on the spindle and watch for it to break loose, because it will pop loose. So here goes. I'm going to try not to hit you, but I apologize for the noise too. It's going to be loud. There it goes. That's all it takes. It's super easy. And it helps that this Mustang has been coming apart like a brand new car, more or less. But now you should be able to pop it loose. There you go. And you can see this thing is, it's not like clanking around, but it's definitely not tight anymore. It's definitely loose. So I'm going to use my, I don't usually use air ratchets because they're an air hog, but I'm going to use my air ratchet and blow this joint out of there, and should be good. I'm going to just get them pretty loose. See, even this one's got a problem. The grease fitting keeps you from getting on the bolt. Now your ball joints come with brand new nuts, bolts, washers, and so you don't have to keep any of this stuff. If you're inclined to hang on the old hardware though, these are pretty decent fine thread bolts, so you can keep them if you want. That's what I usually do. I hoard hardware like nobody's business, and then once in every 5 years I find a use for that bolt that I kept for 10 years. Pretty much how it goes. Now this ball joint's got grease in it, so somebody was taking care of this car, at least to the point where they're greasing things and whatnot. So there's that. What I'm going to do is come in with a wire brush and just kind of wire brush some of this crud off of here and make sure that the spindle bore is clean, and put the new ball joint in. So I'm not going to show, again, I'm not going to show a whole lot of that because it's literally as simple as taking this ball joint, this brand new one, and you're going to stick it up in place. These come a little bit differently with the way that the boot works. So you have a boot, and I believe this has a note on there that says mount inboard. It's cast into the rubber there, mount inboard. So you're going to want to turn that inboard, and then it comes with this plate, this retainer plate that you slide on, and that gets sandwiched with the hardware. So that's how that works. And like I said, I'm going to use a 45-degree fitting here, which I will screw in and tighten down before I put the ball joint in. You can do it after. It just gets a little harder to get in there with a wrench. And I'm basically going to make it so that it's sticking straight up like that. So I'm going to get that kind of all put together, and then I can cut you back on and you can see how that looks. But it's pretty simple. Just got to kind of give it a good shove, get her lined up, and jam her up. Your new nut. Now there is kind of a torque spec for this. It's like a range. 50 to 60 maybe, or something like that. And what you're supposed to do is basically torque it to that, and then you look in there and there's a hole for the cotter pin, and you have to line the cotter pin up is really all you got to do. So you make it tight, and then you tighten it just enough to get the cotter pin in after it's torqued. I had trouble getting my torque wrench on there, but it's close enough. Okay, now we'll see how close we are to the cotter pin hole. Kit comes with a new cotter pin. Okay, I'm actually in a really bad spot. Every once in a while you get unlucky and your hole gets lined up right in the way, or either you get unlucky or you just didn't do it right. In my case, maybe a little bit of both, but you can get around it. Then bend your tangs for your cotter pin, and you're good. Now all you have to do is put your sway bar end link back on and save any of the hardware that you want to keep. Save that Zerk fitting that you didn't use. Put it in the box with your other ones and you're good to go. That's really all you have to do. And now you can see why I did that with the Zerk fitting is now I have plenty of space here to get my grease fitting on there to grease it up. So anyway, that's it. You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to remove the spring. You don't have to put jacks under it. If everything is hanging free, you can do this no problem. This upper arm is already at its extreme. That was one of my fears, was once I pop this out, was this arm going to go somehow go further, but nope, it's good to go. All you got to do is do basically what I said, tighten everything up, make sure your cotter pin goes in, and done deal. Easy project. Thanks for watching.